Let's take a look at Monday, the beginning of week 19. How are we streaming in as the fantasy season closes in on the end? Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am one of 10 million, apparently, secret investors in Old Mates. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshlloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go ahead, sign up at FanDuel, and if your first $5 bet wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. Also, check out lockedondaily.com and get the best newsletter for your favorite team loaded up, banged into your inbox 5 days a week. Double bang this one as well. That would be great. The thumb and the comments and all of that sort of stuff. We're here to talk about Monday in the NBA. It is I Hate Coriander and Cilantro Day. So, if they're the same thing, obviously, but we call it coriander, and Americans, for some reason, call it cilantro. Anyway, if you hate coriander, I know there might be a genetic thing, but maybe consider that you've got some just other problems as well. Anyway, let's talk about what we need to talk about, because as I said, we've headed out of the All-Star break. We're heading into the end of the fantasy season. We're heading towards the fantasy playoffs, and we need to be more intentional. We're not talking longer-term stuff. We're not looking at trends necessarily. We're looking at, what can you do for me right now? There are 8 games on Monday, so I'm going to change the structure of these daily preview shows up a little bit as we head through the rest of the year. We'll start off just by looking at some schedule-based play. There's only one team that's got a Monday and Tuesday back-to-back, and that is your Charlotte Hornets, who, of course, got absolutely cooked on the weekend by the Blazers. So we'll see, but that back-to-back suggests, again, that Mark Williams or LaMelo Ball won't play in one of those 2 games. They're the only team with a 3-game in 4-night period as well, Monday through to Thursday. So they are going to be a target for us in terms of streaming, but they're the only team with the Monday and Tuesday back-to-back, if that is the direction you want to go with your stream decisions. If we have a look at some chunk options, these are the next 5 days. Who plays 3 games? Remembering that Friday is a 10-game day. For some of you, that's streamable. For some of you, that's not. I like all of these guys who are under 30% rostered on Yahoo. I've got Jose Alvarado there. Yeah, came off the bench. Again, was bloody confusing, but whatever. I still think that he's worth it with 30-plus minutes. Lonzo Ball has been shooting absolutely horrifically. There are no back-to-backs in this group, so maybe you get 85 minutes out of Lonzo. Is there a chance that in 2 of the games, 1 of the game, he shoots more than 20%? You would think at some point some shots are going to go in, and he's going to have a 6-6-6, shout out, oh mate, Shatan, steals, blocks with the decent percentage, maybe at one point. I don't know, but you got some bulk value there. I've got Dracaris Levert, who is still available in over 70% of leagues. You probably get close to 90 minutes out of him across the next 5 days. So if you're looking to really conserve in some ads, and you've got that ability on Friday to play players, well, he's going to be one of them. Royce O'Neal is going to be hit or miss. And so, as with a lot of these players that we talk about as streaming guys, trying to nail down the exact game they go off is very tough. It's part of the reason why I hate the sleeper format. No, it doesn't require more skill. It just makes it more random and more luck-based. So you're holding for a few games usually gets you a little bit more value, but there are times when that doesn't work for us. But O'Neal here, if you are looking to get someone in 3 games, 5 nights, he's one of the options we can look at. Little Chungus, Nikola Jovic for Miami, they are prioritizing him over Jaime Jaquez at the moment, and over Haywood Highsmith, so he's getting decent enough minutes. And the other one is Chris Dunn, who's been hitting 30 minutes quite regularly. We've seen some big performances. I don't think they're going to be as big as what they have been, but he's going to be someone that we can look at in this chunky sort of scenario. Now, what I want to look at is some real key injury statuses here. I'm not going to go over every team and every injury through this period. Joel Embiid, though, I tweeted this out early today, a quote graphic. It's on my Insta and all that sort of stuff as well, saying, hey, I'm waiting every day for a Shams notification that Embiid's season is over. And of course, I put that out. Then as soon as I did that, I saw that Embiid was questionable for Monday's game and did not practice. no. Yeah, it's not. It's not going to be good, is it? It's not looking great. And I would be at this point, if Embiid plays in April at all, I'm going to be shocked. It is heading the wrong way in a terrifyingly fast direction. Actually, that's not true because it's been bad all year. But he did not practice Embiid. They also just chucked Tyrese Maxey on the injury report. So yeah, I won't say things are going particularly well there. Rudy Gobert missed time before the All-Star break. He came back and has missed time after the All-Star break. So yeah, we have to be concerned about what that means in his status. We know Randall and DiVincenzo are out, but Gobert is a key status we need to check on too. And then Rob Williams, because if Rob Williams plays, it puts a capper on someone like Klingon a little bit, but it also impacts our ability to use somebody like Jabari Walker, who over their last game was great. And we know Williams has got significant knee problems. He's had so many injuries. We know this, right? So you'd say he probably doesn't play, but that's one of the key statuses that we need to be paying attention to. There are a few other guys with some sort of injury statuses, like someone like Ben Simmons is going to be out Monday. Kawhi is out on Sunday, so he'll play on Monday. We worry about the Hornets and their back-to-back guys, LaMelo and Mark. And then the Jazz guys all should return after sitting out. Well, the guys that sat out, Collins and Clarkson, should play. I don't think Sexton plays, but they're not really key statuses, I don't think, at this point, that we need to massively be paying attention to. We're going to come back and look at some stream options for points leagues in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready, because if they swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. Now, I'm sure DoorDash won't mind me saying this. That's a terrible phrase. It is a terrible phrase, but you know what? It doesn't really matter what they call it. They swoosh, you save. It doesn't matter what they call it because the deal is so good. They could call it anything in the world, because if you're getting 50% off after a player scores 50 points in an NBA game, who cares? Who cares what is it? You have to worry about saying the phrase? You don't. All you got to do is use the promo code. So when a player scores 50 points in an NBA regular season game this season, the next day, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 from noon until midnight, the next day after the 50-point game drops. Easy to do. You just watch the games, you go, ooh, the big fella had 50. Next day, I'm treating myself, thanks to Dash Pass, with a nice order of steak, maybe? A parma? Do you guys have those? Chicken parm? Maybe, whatever. Sign up for Dash Pass. Be ready to save when any player scores 50 or more in a game. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day. Up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders of participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, so let's take a look now at some streaming options. The way we did it on yesterday's show, the categorical and individual point streaming, I tried to hit different levels of leagues and roster percentages, so we just cover a bunch of different names. And at the end, I'm going to talk about my streaming strategy idea. We put the numbers up based on hypotheticals. In the All-Star break, we put the numbers up based on an average of a bunch of like 30, 40 players who fall into a single range. But what we're going to do is we're going to just use specifics for the week, and we're going to track it, and we're going to see how it looks. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. First of all, we'll just start with talking about some Yahoo points streaming options for Monday across the NBA. And again, we're using different sort of cutoff numbers here. I'll start with Quentin Grimes, who is still under 30% rostered. The minutes for him are through the roof. And if Max and Embiid both miss, which is possible, bro, this guy could have some unbelievable value at the moment. And when I did the waiver wire show earlier today, there were two guys on there who I think are just must roster guys and you hold through streaming. And one of them was Grimes and one of them was Alvarado. So yeah, he's a great stream for Monday, but he's probably more than that. I've got Dracaris Levert and Nikola Jovic, both under 30% rostered over on Yahoo as well. So if you're looking for some other options for Yahoo point scoring players for Monday's games, I like both of these guys with pretty sizable roles. And honestly, not a lot going to change with their roles, I don't think, as we move forward. If we go down a step to an under 20% rostered guy, Keon Johnson. I don't think D'Angelo Russell's going to play for Brooklyn. I don't know what they're going to do game by game. Are we going to get 26 minutes of Cam Johnson or 34 or 32? Or are they going to get beaten by 40? Or are they going to pull an upset and win by 3? I just don't know what they do. But one thing we are seeing is Keon Johnson getting a relatively stable role. Is it like 25 or 30 minutes? Like it's in that zone most days. And he's available in a lot of different spots. He's not an easy guy to sort of trust all the time, but he's there. All these last 3 games are all Brooklyn Nets players, and they all hit different sort of roster percentage numbers. Under 10%, it's Zaire Williams. And like Keon, Zaire just starts every game. They're keeping Tosan Ebonwan out of games at the moment to preserve some of his two-way days. I believe, again, when I see some of that stuff, like holding him out to preserve his days, it makes me think that there is going to be a set date, probably middle to end of March, where Cam Johnson or D'Angelo Russell and these guys won't play again. Tosan pushes up and uses his final two-way days. That is sort of how I'm feeling with that. Similarly in Charlotte with guys like Simpson and Barr and who's the other one? Wendell Moore, where they're trying to preserve those days. So that's sort of how I'm viewing that. But for now, Zaire is starting. He's got pretty good minutes and he's available everywhere. And the other one's Killian Hayes, who was like literally 0% rostered. Hayes started last game. Is he going to be good? Probably not. But could you get 6 assists and 4 steals? Could you get 8 assists and 4 steals? Absolute upside value, which might get you like upside of 30 fantasy points? Sure. As a 28-minute starter, what are you getting? 24, 25 maybe? For a guy that's available everywhere, Killian Hayes. This is under the assumption, of course, that D'Angelo Russell's out. But even if D'Lo plays, Hayes looks like he's going to get the backup minutes at point guard ahead of the vulture Reece Beekman. So keep an eye on Killian Hayes as an option there. Those names, if you are playing in an ESPN points league, it's all the same. I think that all of those guys translate very similarly across onto ESPN points leagues and all of their value stays at a similar sort of spot. So Grimes, LeVert, Jovic, Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams, and Killian Hayes. I don't use the ESPN roster percentages. The only one there that's a little whack there is Karis LeVert because he must have been incredibly highly ranked incorrectly by ESPN at the beginning of the season. So that means he was auto-drafted in a bunch of teams, and he's sitting at like 48% on ESPN. But those leagues that have been holding him that long are very clearly inactive, so it doesn't really matter that much. So yeah, the same list of names there, all those roster percentage numbers are Yahoo based, and I think that's proven to be a pretty decent way to go about it. If we're talking category leagues, which we are, and which we'll come back to in just a second, stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you also by FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There is no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can place live bets with FanDuel all the way through an NBA game. After tip, if you've missed that start and you see something that's cracking during the game and you want to get in and you want to make a move because the team has fallen behind, you go, I think they're going to come back. I might cover this second half spread. Well, you can do it with those live in-game bets. And you can get multiple live in-game bets, combine them into an old SGP, the old same-game parlay, live during the game, and that boosts your odds for it as well. So right now, new customers can also get $150 of bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins on FanDuel. Easy to do it. Go to FanDuel.com. Join today. That is FanDuel.com and get a shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. So let's take a look at some streaming options for category leagues. Again, we're gonna try and hit these shows a little bit shorter, a little bit sharper, a little bit more to the point of what we need to do at this point in the season. So if you're looking for the categories, points and threes, and what I'm doing is combining categories that have high correlations with each other. Points and threes. All right, I've got 6 names here at different positions in terms of roster stats. The stats that we use at Basketball Monster, we hit a couple of different areas: 65%, 45%, 20%, and 10%, which should cover most leagues. Number 1 on that list comes out as George Niang. He's under 45% advanced roster number, meaning he's going to be available in a lot of different spots. He doesn't do really anything else apart from points and threes, so he's going to be an option for us here, and I like it. He's not starting. It is Mohamed Waiver who's in that spot, but Niang gets 29, 30 minutes, 15 points, 3 threes, totally possible. And then a couple of, maybe a steal, some sneaky boards get chucked in there as well. We're all good with that. I like Corey Kispert in that spot as well, and he's available like everywhere. And if there's one thing we know about Kispert, he will do nothing else apart from points and threes. Now, it might get a little crowded with Middleton and Smart likely playing in this one after not playing on Sunday, but that's okay. I think Kispert can do the job of what you need and available everywhere. I spoke about Keon Johnson in the point streaming section, and he's still sitting here at this spot, and he is rostered in a lot of leagues, so he's probably more of a 10 or a shallower 12 sort of a format, but this is what he does. Now, he can be inefficient. He can sometimes get assists, but it's really just about some scoring with some 3-point volume. I've got Zach Ricochet in there as well, who's been shooting actually much better. I just want them to give him a few more shots and a few more minutes to see if he can get anything going. It hasn't really happened, but you could get double-digit scoring. You could get 2 or 3 triples, an occasional steal, 4 or 5 rebounds. It's not bad, It's not bad. And so he's in that mix there. If you want to go very deep and you want to go very available, Pants Kevin Huerter. With Aya DeSumo out last game, we got a lot of minutes from Huerter. I won't say that he was particularly successful in getting good numbers, but he was there. And 30 minutes for a guy that's available in like 98% of leagues or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm interested. Could Huerter pop off and have a 16-point game with 5 threes? Yes. And even if he doesn't, the 30-minute baseline of value is enough to be in this mix. And the last one there is Nick Smith Jr. I don't know if Ball is going to sit on either of these games. I expect that he does. I don't know if he sits Monday or Tuesday. I've got no idea. Smith is going to start irrespective. Now, if LaMelo is out, Smith just gets more touches, more ball handling, more shot attempts. And the thing that he does, much like with Keon Johnson, much like with Corey Kispert, much like with Kevin Huerter, the thing that they provide is points and threes. So he is in that mix there for you as well. So let's go and take a look at the next bunch of categories. And we're looking at big man stats, rebounds and blocks. Who are some guys that we can take a look at there who might be able to help us there? Because I think it is more important to be a little bit more general with our streaming earlier in the week and focus in on particular categories at the end of the week. But if you look at your opponent, your matchup, and how your team usually looks, you sort of know which way you lean, where you side. Do I need big man stats? Am I going in there? Do I need some guard stats? Do I need some scoring boosts? Do I need percentage help? You generally have that idea, then you can narrow it down later on in the week. So if we're looking at big man stats, boards and blocks, Day'Ron Sharpe, to me, is the number one guy to grab. He's available in a lot of different spots. He's providing value in limited minutes. Now, the Nets could, at any point, do something strange. You might argue they're doing that already in terms of the way they're handling things. But Sharpe, in these minutes, is enough. If he gets more, then whew, I think we'll get some good stuff cracking. The other guy there, or the next guy, is Matas Buzelis. Now, yeah, he is rostered in a lot of spots, but he's being dropped in a lot of different areas as well. And despite some of the frustrations we might have with the rotations the Bulls are running, Buzelis is good enough to get rebounds and a block or two to help you out in a league. Isaiah Stewart and Zaire Williams. Different players, very much so. Stewart is a backup center who might play 18 minutes, get 7 rebounds, and have 2 blocks. That's a nice little helper. Zaire is a starting small forward, power forward. Now, he's not what you consider for that, but he plays 30 minutes and 31 minutes, which he usually does. He can get a block. He can get 7 rebounds. It's different ways of going about it. And then, Stewart leans into those big man stats, a bit higher field goal percentage, where Williams is going to give you lower, and then he has more ability to get you some threes and some other numbers. But in terms of looking at rebounds and blocks, both of those guys are available in a lot of different spots and just might be a sneaky addition for you on Monday. This guy's still rostered in just far too many leagues. He narrowly snuck under the 65% roster percentage minimum, which it should be at like 20, but whatever, it's Jonas Valanciunas. People are still... Bro played like 9 minutes last game. What are they waiting for? Oh, they'll play them together. They won't. Like, it's done. And that sounds stupid because I'm here telling you, hey, you might want to stream in Jonas Valanciunas. But if people have made the correct decision, the absolute correct decision to drop him, now you stream him in for a day like this. He might get you a block, but he might get you 7 rebounds. Will he play 9 minutes or 14 or 16? I don't know. It's not going to be big, but he is a very, very good per minute rebounder in particular. And it's not hard. Sometimes it is, but like a block is a weird thing. It's not a big accumulation type of stat. Like to get to 10 or 11 rebounds, you need to be on the court. You can get a block in 1 minute. You can go out there, play a minute, block a shot, you sit down, you're done. You can't go and get 10 rebounds in 1 minute unless you're Tari Eason missing every layup in the world, right? You can't do that. But a block and a steal, like you can come in and it can happen in the first minute. It can happen in the first 2 minutes you're on the court. So that's why I like that. Last one there is Keyshawn George, who's been starting. The minutes are pretty strong. He's very iffy with his shooting numbers, but they are at least giving him a pretty good run. I do worry about whatever shenanigans this team is going to roll out there, but Keyshawn looks pretty solid to me in that area. If we look now at guard stats, assists and steals are the numbers we're looking at here. The number one obvious one there is Chris Dunn, who's just available everywhere. You honestly might get a combined 12 assists and steals out of him in a game. Not even joking. He's under 20% rostered. This is a guy that's available everywhere. I don't mind just a grab of him just to see what happens. He's putting up big numbers. I've already talked about my hesitancy or concerns with Lonzo Ball, but one thing that he does is get assists and steals usually. Could you get 6 assists and 3 steals in 29 minutes? Yes, you could very easily. And that's what you do now. Could he shoot 5%? Also possible. The next one is Killian Hayes. It's like Lonzo Ball, but worse. But this is what he does. He gets assists and steals, and I'm expecting him to start with D'Angelo Russell being out. Or I think D'Angelo Russell's out. I'm pretty sure he's out. If you're in a slightly shallower league, Andrew Nembhard, this is the thing that he does. Could get 5 assists, could get 2 steals or 3 steals. Easy. Done. Good enough in those shallow formats to be streamed, but he's part of TMC, the Matherin Collective, the group of blokes who you just think, maybe, but also what about one of the other 30 guys who are similar? That's where he fits. If you want to go shallow again, go to Miami. He's playing 30 minutes as their starting point guard. It's Davion Mitchell. Could you get 3 points out of him? Maybe. But you might get a lot of assists and you might get a lot of steals. And lastly, it is the Hong Kong mattress himself, Cason Wallace in Oklahoma City. It's tough at the moment with Chet back and with Hartenstein back, and both playing that Wallace isn't going to start most nights, and there's the competition from Joe and Wiggins and Dort. But in 23 minutes, could he get 4 and 3? Possible. And if at any point someone's hurt or Caruso sprains an ankle again, and Wallace has to push to 30 minutes, well, you've got 5 steal upside, maybe 6 or 7 assists in that particular spot. Next thing we want to look at is percentages, both field goal and free throw. I'm not going to combine them together. Very rarely you're adding someone to help you in both of them. Those players sort of exist, but not really usually off the waiver wire. So I've got 3 names there at different sort of roster numbers for field goal percentage. And their names we've talked about, or 2 of them already. One of them is Day'Ron Sharpe. One of them is Jonas Valanciunas. The next one is KJ Martin, who played like 30 minutes for the Jazz in his first game. Now, that was a game without John Collins, and I expect Collins to play in the next one, but it appears that Martin is going to be a part of the rotation, and he's generally been a pretty good field goal percentage player. He can also get a couple of out-of-position blocks as well. If we look at free throw percentage, this is, again, a category that is not that hard to find some good players for it. Mike Conley, Corey Kispert, Nick Smith Jr., enough value in those guys at different roster spots as well, different league sizes that can come in. They won't go to the line 8 times. No one does. But league average is about 3.7, I think it is. So 3 free throw attempts from any of these guys. Maybe Kispert might struggle there, but not hard. And they could easily go 3 of 3, 4 of 4. Easy. And there's some interesting options for you if you're looking for those categories. Now, I did say earlier that we were looking at that streaming idea that I put forward and chucked all the numbers out there. But let's give some real world examples. On the daily preview show, the weekly preview show, the Week 19 show, I talked about the guys that play with only 2 quality games this week, using my 9 or fewer is a quality streaming day, 10 or more is a day where you might not stream. And there were 4 teams who only had 2 quality games this week. The Hawks, the Cavs, the Grizzlies, and the Knicks. And I put forth a list of, 10 names who could be in that mix, who are rostered in a high enough percentage of categories that you could move on from, right? George Niang, Karis LeVert, Zach Rusachet, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, Milk Jerome, Zach Edey, Santi Aldama, and Precious Achua. All these sort of back-endy sort of guys who might only play twice, but if you use your streams right, you can get more value out of it. So let's take a look at how I'm going to start off streaming that in. Now, I think the way that this week is playing out, I think the way the schedule looks, if you've got the ability with only 4 roster moves to stream 2 slots, I'm not sure it's the best way to go about it. Because I think in a lot of cases, you can get that up to, get 10 games out of those 2 slots by doing it this way. But it's your choices of who to grab is very limited. So I think the advantage in doing it that way is not going to be super strong. So I do want to focus on using the 1 slot 4 move method to go from 2 quality games into 6. And the way we want to do that is you want to stream singularly for Monday's game. We want to stream singularly for Monday's game. Again, I'm going to use different sort of cutoffs for this, but Quentin Grimes sits at under 30% on Yahoo. Now, I just believe Grimes needs to be rostered irrespective, but he fits the rules here, so he is my Monday stream option for that. If you are in a league where Grimes has taken, it makes sense. But let's go with under 45% on Basketball Monsters Advanced Metric. Well, Chris Dunn easily fits that. So he's my 1 slot stream idea. Then what we do is on Tuesday, Wednesday, we look for a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back. And we'll do that on tomorrow's show to find out who we stream there. But Grimes and Dunn are my 1 slot streamers for Monday. If we're doing 2-slot streaming, the only way to maximize games is to use a Charlotte Hornet player. They're the only team that goes 3 games in 4 nights between Monday to Thursday. So the 2 guys who are widely available there, Nick Smith Jr. and Josh Green. They're the only 2 names who are widely available, who you can add, get 3 games in 4 nights out of them, and then after Friday's game, we switch over to a San Antonio Spurs guy for the Saturday-Sunday back-to-back, and that gives us 5 games in each of those 2 slots. 10 games total, and if we drop 2 of these 2 quality game players, that means we've got a +6 in that spot. But again, whether that ends up being enough or not, I don't know. That's what we're going to track, aren't we? I think the better move is going to be streaming 1 slot this week just because of the limited options of only 1 team. The only way you can do it with 2 slots and 4 moves is Hornets into Spurs. That's the only way you can max out the games, and that makes it a little bit more restrictive. Whereas for the other one, with 1 slot, you've got way more options, and I think that's going to give you a bigger boost in production. But that's what we're going to track. So I've got Grimes and Dunn, and then if I'm doing 2 slots, it's Nick Smith and Josh Green. And that is that's a show. That is a daily preview show, and I know you're going to dislike it because it's a little bit different to what we've normally been doing, but there's a method to the way that I do these things and the way we change up. We're always trying to make it better, and I just think that this is a way that gives our focus into the right areas versus some of the other stuff, which I think has always been important. But these things of like what I'm watching for, it's not as useful at this point in the season to be like long thinking, well, what about this? And how do we make through that? And what happens there in 2 to 3 weeks' time? That's not as important. So that is why I decided to make that change. Apologies if you don't like it, but that's the way that we're doing it because I do think that it does work out the best. Hit the thumb up or the thumb down, but if you hit the thumb down, just hit it twice. It's double impact. It hurts me more if you do it that way. And leave your comments down below. Keep it positive. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep always working on the next thing. Always looking to move into doing the next thing better. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.